I still remember the heat coming off the runway that day, the way the asphalt shimmered under the Texas sun, and the look on the faces of the men in suits when they realized a Boeing 747 wasn't going to touch down because of me. Arms spread wide, 50 strangers standing shoulder to shoulder beside me, and thousands more watching from behind the glass. I had my phone in one hand, streaming live to anyone who'd listen. "This is history in the making," I told them. And I meant it. But if you'd seen me just 2 hours earlier, you wouldn't have guessed I'd end up there. I was just Dr. Camille Turner, 38 years old, a neurosurgeon from Houston, heading to Boston to perform emergency surgery on the governor's teenage son. Navy blazer, pressed boarding pass for first class in hand, and a head full of pre-op checklists. I'd worked my way into that seat years of training nights on call missing birthdays. That ticket wasn't just a perk, it was proof. The first class cabin smelled of leather and champagne. As I buckled in, a flight attendant, tall blonde name tag reading Shelby, walked past me with a tray of champagne flutes. She served the white passengers around me with warm smiles, skipping my row entirely. At first, I told myself she just didn't see me, so I raised a hand, polite as can be. "Excuse me, could I have some water, please?" She didn't even slow down. "I'll be with you shortly." 20 minutes later, I still hadn't seen that water. Meanwhile, a white businessman slid into his seat 2 rows up, late boarding, and she practically sprinted over with a drink and a laugh. The pattern was impossible to ignore. The second time I asked, Shelby's smile tightened like she was holding in something sour. "We're very busy preparing for takeoff. Patience would be appreciated." And then came the voice from across the aisle, a middle-aged man in a suit shaking his head at me. "The crew's doing their best. No need for the attitude." My cheeks burned. Attitude. I hadn't raised my voice, I hadn't rolled my eyes. But I've lived long enough to know that for a black woman, simply asking for equal treatment can be rebranded as aggression. The captain announced a minor delay, so we all settled in. That's when I caught Shelby whispering with another attendant by the galley. "Always the same with these uppity passengers," the other one muttered. "Think they belong up here with us." Shelby snickered. "First class ain't what it used to be." My stomach turned. I slid my phone onto my lap camera, rolling. When the drink cart finally came back, Shelby approached me with the enthusiasm of someone headed to jury duty. She held out a cup of coffee, and somehow it tipped right into my lap, scalding hot. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said, flat as a sidewalk. I jumped up, wincing. "Could I get some napkins?" She moved right along to the next passenger. From behind me, another white voice, "Ma'am, you're making a scene." And that's when 2 men appeared, one in plain clothes, one in uniform. "Air Marshal Lopez. We've had complaints about disruptive behavior. You'll need to come with us." "For what I've done, nothing wrong," I said, holding up my hospital ID. "I'm on my way to perform emergency surgery." "Either you come quietly," the officer interrupted, gripping my arm, "or we remove you by force." Walking down that aisle felt like being paraded through a gauntlet of silence. Most people avoided my eyes. A few black passengers looked at me with that mix of recognition and helplessness I've known since childhood. Shelby and her friend were smirking like they'd just won something. They sat me in a holding room with fluorescent lights that made everything look sickly. The airline manager arrived with a clipboard and the kind of smile they teach you in corporate crisis training. "We understand there was an incident," she began. I cut her off. "No, there was discrimination. I was ignored, humiliated, and removed from my seat for asking for basic courtesy. My phone, my proof, was already in the hands of security. Through the glass wall, I saw it wasn't just me. TSA agents swarming an elderly black man with a cane. A Muslim family's belongings dumped out on a table while white travelers breezed by. It hit me like a punch. This wasn't about one rude flight attendant. It was the whole damn system. I heard my dad's voice like he was sitting beside me. Camille, there will be moments when the world treats you unfairly because of your skin. You can stay quiet to stay safe, or you can stand up so the ones coming after you won't have to. When one of the guards mentioned quota to his buddy, something in me clicked over. I told them I'd been called to a medical emergency in the terminal, and legally I had to respond. The hesitation in their eyes was all I needed. I walked out and didn't stop until I was in a back corridor pulling out the second phone they didn't know I had. I texted my sister, removed from UA 1845 for being black in first class. Discrimination all over this airport. Post the video. That's when I met Darnell, a janitor who'd been watching the same patterns for 15 years. If you're serious about fighting back, he said, I know people. Within 20 minutes, I was in a break room with flight attendants, baggage handlers, and security guards from other airlines. They had record screenshots, internal emails, words like maintain comfort level and demographic balance in premium cabins, code for keep too many black and brown folks out. And then someone mentioned it. CEO Mitchell Ray was landing here in 2 hours for a press conference about customer service excellence. I laughed bitter. Let's make sure he sees what excellence looks like. We started gathering passengers who'd been targeted that day. Their stories poured out raw and too familiar. A comm specialist named Mariah hacked into the PA system and broadcast an invite to the central atrium. If you face discrimination at this airport, come share your story. Hundreds came. Cameras rolled. The airline execs started to panic. But talk wasn't enough. We needed something they couldn't spin. That's when the idea landed: block the CEO's plane. I told the crowd the risk trespassing arrest federal charges. 50 people still stepped forward. We moved like a single body through service corridors. Darnell's access card unlocking doors until the blast of hot tarmac air hit us. The sky was so wide it felt like we were stepping into history. Form the line, I told them as Ray's jet appeared in the distance. We linked arms, a human wall across the runway. Inside the tower, they ordered the plane to abort landing. It climbed away, engines roaring. Security vehicles closed in. Megaphones blared. We didn't move. My live stream was picking up thousands of viewers by the second, the comments flying so fast I couldn't read them all. Another hashtag joined the first Runway revolt. Hours passed in the heat. People were dizzy, lips cracking, but they stayed. News helicopters circled. Pilots from other airlines radioed in their support, refusing to cross our picket line. The airline's stock was tanking live on national TV. By the time Ray's chopper touched down, his board was calling for his resignation. He walked toward us in a $1,000 suit, sweat beading at his temple. Dr. Turner, he said, hand extended. Let's discuss your concerns. This isn't about my concerns, I told him. It's about years of discrimination your company has hidden. And we have the receipts. I nodded to Mariah, who projected the leaked emails for every camera to see. Ray tried the PR script, isolated incidents, mischaracterized documents, but the crowd shouted him down. My attorney laid it out, acknowledged the problem, agreed to an independent investigation, change the policies, and protect whistleblowers. Or watch your company burn in real time. You could see the math happening in his head. Finally, he said, if I sign, will you clear the runway? When the ink's dry, I answered. An hour later, we had it in writing. Public acknowledgement, independent oversight, mandatory training, an advocacy office with teeth. He signed. The crowd inside the terminal roared. We unlocked our arms. The human chain dissolved into hugs and tears. 6 months on, I stood at a podium in D.C. as chair of a new federal Transportation Equity Commission. Complaints of discrimination had dropped 68% across major airlines. Many of the people from that break room now led reform programs nationwide. And still when I fly, I watch the crew moving through the cabin, making eye contact with every passenger, offering the same care to the man in 1A as to the woman in 42C. It's not perfect, but it's proof that pushing back matters. That day on the runway, we didn't just stop a plane. We stopped pretending the system was fair, and we proved that ordinary people standing together can make the ground shake under the biggest giants. So tell me, if it were you sitting in that seat watching the same injustice play out, would you have walked off quietly, or would you have walked onto that runway? Drop your answer in the comments, because the next time this happens, someone's going to need to know you've got their back.